Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell you the truth about silver. Today is Tuesday, the 3rd of September, 2019. And it's actually 2300 hours British summer time. And we have our Brexit and Parliamentary correspondent, Journo Marcus, on the line. Hello, Marcus.
Good evening.
On Monday, we published a video based on information that we had received that Prime Minister Boris Johnson was likely to call a general election tomorrow, being Wednesday. Now, Marcus, you've been to Parliament. What's happening? Because from news reports that I've picked up, there's been a lot of excitement.
Well, it's been a highly dramatic evening in Parliament. Parliament returned today from its summer recess, and Jeremy Corbyn and the opposition parties all clubbed together to try and take control of parliamentary business. And now normally the government sets the parliamentary agenda for most of the time, what will be debated. But they put a bill forward to try and get control of parliamentary business with a view to putting another bill forward in the days ahead to rule out a no deal Brexit. And what happened this evening was the first stage of that happened. A bill was put forward in the House of Commons after 3 hours of debate, and it was 328 to 301 in favour of this motion to take control for the backbench MPs and the opposition, in effect, to take control of the parliamentary agenda from tomorrow onwards. And what that means is that it is now it will be the case that tomorrow a bill will be put forward to try and rule out a no-deal Brexit. But Prime Minister Boris Johnson stood up in Parliament this evening, just after 10 o'clock, less than an hour ago, to say that he will now go for a general election. Now, we have something called the Fixed Terms Parliaments Act, which was passed in 2011, which makes that somewhat more complicated than it would used to have been. Now, Boris Johnson can table a motion to dissolve Parliament and therefore get a general election, but that requires a 2/3 majority. And his parliamentary majority, which was wafer thin for today, was wiped out when a Conservative MP called Philip Lee crossed the House and joined the Liberal Democrats. So there is no working majority for Boris Johnson's Conservatives in his alliance with the Democratic Unionist Party of Northern Ireland in the House of Commons. So tomorrow, assuming he does table this motion to try and dissolve Parliament, which requires a 2/3 majority, it's very, very unlikely that he will get it. After Boris Johnson had finished speaking this evening, the leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, stood up and said that, yes, he was all in favour of a general election, but only after a bill had been passed to rule out a no-deal Brexit. So the way it's likely to pan out tomorrow is that Boris Johnson will lose his attempt to dissolve Parliament because he won't get the 2/3 majority. There are a few arcane mechanisms and a few tricks up his sleeve that he could use to try and dissolve Parliament on Thursday. But as much as he may have wanted a general election over the weekend, and what we heard on Illuminati Silver in recent days is correct, that there was rife talk of a general election over the weekend, an enormous spanner has been thrown in the works today. Parliament may not be dissolved anytime soon.
Well, Marcus, so for the Brexiteers, that's obviously very bad news. How can Corbyn actually prevent a no-deal Brexit just by passing a bill in Parliament if all Johnson has to do is sit on his hands, not talk to the EU, and the 31st of October Brexit deadline is reached? What happens then?
The devil is in the detail, isn't it? Because it all depends on how this bill is worded that will go before the House of Commons in the next few days. If this bill is worded that if no deal can be arranged, then the United Kingdom stays in the European Union, then, well, Boris Johnson cannot run down the clock. It all depends on how it's worded, and even if it's possible to word it that way, lawyers will have to be consulted on that. I don't know the answer to that one. I don't think anyone knows the answer to that one just yet. Can they put something like that in a bill? It's either a deal or we stay in. It's dangerous territory constitutionally, this, in all sorts of ways. But we can see that the next few days are going to be crucial, and the devil will be in the detail.
Now, what's happened to this attempt by Boris Johnson to actually close Parliament down in aid of the Queen's speech. The technical term is proroguing Parliament. What's happened with that?
As things stand, it stays intact, and that means that all that's going on will have to be rushed through Parliament in a matter of days. Now, the Queen has even signed it now, so that would be a very hard thing to reverse. But at the same time, the Parliament is due to sit for the remainder of this week.
Mm-hmm.
This attempt now to get this bill to rule out no deal could well be rushed through both houses of Parliament in a matter of days. That looks like where we are at the moment.
So let's get this straight. Basically, it is quite likely that Johnson will call for a vote tomorrow for a general election. He won't get his 2/3 majority. And the Labour Party and supporters will put forward a bill basically stipulating into British law that a no-deal Brexit under any circumstances will not be allowed to stand, which therefore surely cuts the feet from beneath Boris Johnson in negotiating really any deal with the EU, because then they don't have to do anything.
And the other danger is that it incentivizes the EU to offer us the worst deal possible. Wherever you are in the world, that there are a few basic rules you have in any negotiation, whether it's to buy a house, a car, or anything else for that matter. You always reserve the right to walk away. You don't go up to someone when you're thinking of buying their house and you say, I will buy this house no matter what the price is. If you can't agree a price, you walk away. We have all walked away from deals at one point or another in our lives. This effectively forces Boris Johnson to either accept a rubbish deal the EU would inevitably offer us under those circumstances or call Brexit off. This, I'm afraid, is now a case of Parliament versus the people.
Marcus, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you're just reporting what's happened, but now I'm going to ask you to get out your crystal ball.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think will actually happen?
I think that tomorrow Boris Johnson will lose his attempt to dissolve Parliament. I think a bill will be rushed through in the next few days before the prorogation, which will legally rule out no deal. The thing I wouldn't like to predict is what that actually means in legal terms. Does that mean we stay in? Is that legally sound? That we stay in if no deal is agreed, or does Boris Johnson just sit and run down the clock under those circumstances? I would say, if I had to put money on it, I would say that leaving the EU on the 31st of October is now very unlikely indeed.
On that basis, we have seen the pound fall against both the dollar and the euro. Against the euro, currently it's 110, and against the dollar, it's approximately 120. Now, basically, we were predicting that a no-deal Brexit would cause, certainly at this stage, sterling to fall. Are you therefore perhaps suggesting there might be a glimmer of hope now for the Remainers, and therefore we might very well see sterling improve? Perhaps not tomorrow because of the uncertainty, but certainly if the bill is passed to prevent a no-deal Brexit, that might help markets, will it not?
Yes, I think it'll become clear that tomorrow Boris Johnson is highly unlikely to succeed in getting the 2/3 majority needed to dissolve Parliament. And then on Thursday, I think when the ball is rolling with this attempt to get legislation through to rule out no deal, I think even when it becomes clear that that's likely to pass in the House of Commons, sterling will begin to pick up. So far as temporary relief for sterling goes, I think that the key day will be Thursday and probably Friday. But so far as British democracy goes and the long term, I think we are in grave trouble. I really do.
Marcus Stead, I'm going to get this video out tonight before midnight. Thank you very much. And we really appreciate the fact that you've come to us so late in the evening. Thank you, Marcus.
You're very welcome.
We hope you have found this video interesting and informative. And if so, please give it a thumbs up and share it on social media. Please ensure that you have subscribed to our channel and press the bell sign so that you are notified of any future videos. Also, kindly visit our website at illuminatisilver.com, and if you haven't already done so, Please subscribe either as a free or paying member for regular email updates and offers. Disclaimer. Illuminati silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice and merely represent the personal views of its owners.